Starseed Conqueror, 10,000 times rewards, Frigate destroys stars. Episode 101, dialogue spanning 12 billion light-years. Level 6 civilization. Fourth more. Boom, boom, boom. Dense footsteps sounded. Teams of tactical humanoid maidens, Saint Heli's elite maiden warriors, and etheric dragon maiden warriors walked through the passages inside the battleship. They are all dressed in the latest models of power armor. The latest model of individual power armor, the outer part is covered with a layer of strong interaction material. Very thin, less than a millimeter thick. But the hardness of this millimeter thickness is far greater than the core of a star. Hurry up, get in place quickly. Everyone pulls up their own twisted force field shields. Heavenly curtain twist force field barrier, good seal these corners. Each channel seals at least 120 layers of twisted force field barriers. Try to stay as far away from your target. Inside the passages inside the battleship, a tactical humanoid maiden warrior stepped up to arrange everything under the command of their respective squad leaders. In addition to sealing 120 layers in each passage with the celestial space distortion force field barrier, the latest, 5th level civilization level strong interaction force wall has been erected between these distorting force fields. All these blocked passages all point in one direction. That is, the very core of this Yonla the Great class integrated battlecruiser. Next to the antimatter energy supply reactor. A completely enclosed cube made from the latest strongly interacting materials. There is a silvery white ball that constantly emits fluorescence. This orb is not large, about 30 centimeters in diameter. It seems like a natural fit. I don't know what materials are made, at least the Great Qin Empire can't study it clearly at present. And outside the strong interaction force cube that covers the sphere. Next to the antimatter functional reactor, several lightweight Laplace Tacheron light spears are aimed. And this antimatter energy supply reactor is constantly running. As long as Qin Sheng gave an order, he could carry out the pickup of positive and negative substances, and then extinguish. Release huge amounts of extinguishing energy. In space. The Yonla the Great class integrated battlecruiser was parked alone. The space docking hatch passage opens. Another Yonla the Great class integrated battlecruiser controlled by the Golden Sparrow Soul clan took away all the tactical humanoid maidens inside, Saint Heli's elite maiden warriors, and etheric dragon maiden warriors. The stellar system space transition engine starts. The space around the battleship twisted, and then the entire battleship distorted in this space with a burst of blue fluorescence. In space, only the Yonla the Great class battleship was left alone here. Even the Golden Sparrow Soul of the battleship itself had been evacuated. Around the battleship, several faster-than-light tachothrome communication base stations are monitoring the 12-kilometer-long, 3-kilometer-wide, and 1.4-kilometer-high Yonla the Great integrated battlecruiser. 120 light-years away. Space-warped, warships carrying evacuees appeared. 20 kilometers in diameter, the neutron battlestar is waiting. The brilliant Milky Way at absolute 0 degrees on the neutron battlestar, the absolutely smooth reflective surface, pulls out a narrow and beautiful landscape. The 800-meter caliber, directional neutrino pulse diffusion decomposition cannon with a range of more than 120 light-years is ready to be fired at any time. In the central control room, Qin Sheng stared dead at the screen in front of him, some of which showed the outside of the battleship that was alone in space 120 light-years away. Some are showing the inside of the battleship, the strong interaction force cube that covers the unknown creation. Your Majesty the Emperor, everyone has left the sticker. Ella reported to Qin Sheng. All the operating systems and engines on the battleship have been disassembled, leaving only the self-destructible antimatter reactor. Neil reported softly. My people have also been disembodied from the battleship and have all withdrawn. The shadow of Stell appeared on Qin Sheng's shoulder, and she somewhat nervously stretched out her realistic small hand to grasp the slight decoration on Qin Sheng's power armor. None of the detectors detected anything unusual. Anvilia shook her head and said, and there stood Night Frost next to her. Whether it was in his past life or now, Qin Sheng had never encountered such a thing. I've never heard of anything like this either. Qin Sheng was not cautious. Be careful. Suddenly, inside the cube of the strongly interacting material, the fluorescence seemed to spread out. Qin Sheng was shocked to see it. This was by no means an ordinary light. It directly penetrates the cube made of his latest strong interaction material. An inexplicable message instantly crossed a distance of 120 light-years and was transmitted. Huh? Qin Sheng was slightly stunned. Immediately after, the message seemed to pause. Then it was changed to Chinese. Hello guys. It's a greeting. Qin Sheng frowned deeply and took a deep breath. Able to communicate? but Qin Sheng remained silent. You don't need to be so nervous. Introduce yourself. I am the 6th level civilization 1 Emperor Hao. And I am in touch with you through this communicator at the moment. Don't worry, I'm in the structure of the Wuxian Beaver Great Wall Galaxy, which is 12 billion light-years away. I wonder how you got this communicator. Wait, let me think. Ah, I remember. The Milky Way, right? In words you can understand, I left my hometown, the Milky Way, 190 million years ago. It's been 190 million years. I don't know if the Milky Way is okay now. I just noticed that the coordinates you are located seem to be quite close to the location of a 5th-level treacherous demon that I sealed at that time. Please also pay attention to avoid this coordinate. It seems that in nearly 200 years, the 4-dimensional space will be destroyed by self-regulation. Every word spoken by the self-proclaimed Emperor Hao made Qin Sheng feel frightened. At the moment he is talking to him across a distance of 12 billion light-years. This Emperor Hao left the galaxy 190 million years ago. And the 5th-level treacherous god chose the great demon, Bai Tao, who was sealed when he left the galaxy in the first place. No, isn't the hub galaxy supposedly a 6th-level civilization, authorized by the Mibak civilization? Who is this Emperor Hao? If what he said was true, then why would the communicator he left behind 190 million years ago lose money in the hub galaxy? Episode 102, The Usefulness of Source Crystals, the Ultimate Theory of the Universe. Shock Qin Sheng for a whole year. Subscribe. But anyway. This being named D Hao was only the means of communicating with Qin Sheng that was now on display. All of them were incomprehensible to the great Qin Empire at present. Easily penetrated the lid of the strongly interacting material, and then the communication ball spanned a precise distance of 120 light-years. Found Qin Sheng and talked to Qin Sheng. Let's be honest. Qin Sheng was a little overwhelmed. In the face of Emperor Hao's words, he could only respond in silence. I may have scared you. Sorry, I haven't interacted with other civilizations in a long time. Here in the Wuxian Northern Corona Great Wall Galaxy, it's really boring. There's not much time for this communicator. 190 million years ago, I didn't give much energy when I left it. When I was the first to enter the 5th-level civilization, I was not skilled in the technology of vacuum zero energy. So, in a limited amount of time, I can answer some of your questions. Just ask. Emperor Hao's voice sounded in Qin Sheng's mind, and when Qin Sheng heard it, he took a deep breath. It's useless to think so much now. Regardless of whether what this Emperor Hao said was true or false, Qin Sheng now had no way to verify it. So, do you know about the Mibak civilization? Qin Sheng asked this question first. Ah, the Mibak civilization. It seems a little strange. Oh yes, come to think of it, the Mibak civilization, it's me, or rather, us. D Hao replied. You guys? Qin Sheng was a little puzzled. Yes, I am D Hao, and my name is D Hao. However, D Hao is not referring to me alone. Our entire civilization, all of us can be called Emperor Hao. Mibak, this title is the result of the transliteration of the name of D Hao by the language of a certain civilization in the galaxy 190 million years ago. So, there are still a lot of mistakes in simply using vibrations for the vocal organs to communicate. This is one of many mistakes. So, the name Mibak civilization has spread in the galaxy again? That should be another Emperor Hao who has been to the galaxy again. D Hao asked curiously. At this time, Anvilia reminded Qin Sheng next to her, Your Majesty the Emperor, the detection system shows that the creature 120 light-years away is no longer emitting light, but a small range of energy vibrations around it has begun. Before Wei Lia's words were finished, D Hao's voice sounded in Qin Sheng's mind again. I just tested the vacuum energy vibrations of the Milky Way. Based on the current state of motion of the energy particles throughout the galaxy, I calculated the causes of the past. I also understand the reason why this communicator is now in the hands of your civilization. Sure enough, another Emperor Hao visited the galaxy. But he didn't stay long, just a few thousand years, and then he left. It's a pity that my current causal calculation formula technology is not very well used, otherwise I would have been able to calculate where he went after leaving the galaxy. Sorry, I calculated the energy particle operating state of the Milky Way without your permission. Please forgive me for this. But please understand, I have been lonely for 100 million years, and I want to find another Emperor Hao. 190 million years ago, our civilization left the galaxy. After 50 million years of continuous improvement, we have finally advanced to the 6th level civilization. But, because each individual has a different path of self-philosophy, we end up separated. After wandering the universe alone 40 million years, I came to the structure of the Great Wall Galaxy in the constellation of Wuxian, the constellation of the Northern Corona. I haven't seen any other emperor house since. I thought that the ascension of my own philosophical tree system would allow me to resist the long loneliness. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right, but my level is still insufficient. Qin Sheng heard the words, and Aoki was shaken. Causal calculation formula. Had Dihao evolved to the point of becoming a Laplace demon? And listening to his word, it seems that he is also facing some kind of loneliness at the moment. At this moment, Anvilia said to Qin Sheng, "Your Majesty, I don't know why I just suddenly received a piece of information." Qin Sheng then looked at Anvilia. Couldn't Anvilia hear Dihao's voice? Seeing the confused look of Anvilia and the others, Qin Sheng slightly confirmed that Emperor Hao's voice could only be heard by himself. Open this profile. Profile opens. A virtual light screen appears. Shown above is a planet. On the planet, there lives a primitive civilization. The level of civilization is at the level of feudal native civilization. Looking at the appearance of its civilized creatures, Qin Sheng confirmed. The creatures of this planet are the Athos people. It seems to be the appearance of the Athos people tens of thousands of years ago. Just then, a ball of light about 20 meters in diameter suddenly flew from outer space. The ball of light was fluorescent and could not be seen from what material it was made of. A ball of light descended on the planet. The Athos people on the planet were terrified and worshipped the ball of light as a god. After spending thousands of years on this planet, the ball of light has left a trail of low-end civilization technology formulas on the planet. Then the ball of light flashed. Disappear out of thin air. Along with the disappearance, there is also the special source crystal ore contained in the planet. In this way, the Athos people developed to the level of fourth-level civilization in tens of thousands of years with the scientific and technological formula left by the ball of light. After that, the fourth-level peak civilization, the pioneering civilization, came to the middle loaf of the Athos people. The pioneer civilization says they were commissioned by the sixth-level civilization, the Mibak civilization, to help the Athosians build a Dyson ball. Subsequently, the Athosians selected a new galaxy to build the Dyson sphere, also as their new capital. That's the hub galaxy. The original parent star has naturally been abandoned. The picture is turning. It's already 70% of the way to Dyson's ball construction. In the midst of the giant space city, a third-class civilization warship enters it. Battleships docked in port. "Commander, you say, what is this orb that we stumbled upon in space?" "How do I know, but we can't study it no matter how we study it. It's definitely a good thing for higher civilizations. If we give it to the Athos Empire, we will definitely get a lot of benefits." Several slightly humanoid third-level civilization creatures stepped out and entered the space city. One of them was holding a ball of unknown construction. The next moment, the entire huge space city was destroyed, and the 1,200-kilometer diameter Emperor Battlestar passed through space and blatantly crashed into the space city. Everyone died, and the orb of unknown construction was thrown into space. Captured by the Emperor Battlestar. Then, this thing reached Qin Sheng's hands. The picture disappears. Qin Sheng bowed his head slightly, as it was. But there are also many doubts. That is, what exactly is the source crystal? It would allow the sixth-level civilization's Dihao to stay on the planet of the Athos people for thousands of years. Qin Sheng asked Emperor Hao this question directly. Dihao gave an answer. The source crystal, to put it bluntly, is the solid vein that the vacuum zero point can undergo special influences and thus condense into a solid vein. Did you know that vacuum zero can? Qin Sheng nodded. Of course he knew that vacuum zero could. Vacuum zero point energy is an energy that is more advanced than antimatter energy. Vacuum does not mean nothing. Vacuum is a system composed of positron and negative electron rotation wave packets. The energy associated with this phenomenon is called zero energy, that is, even at absolute zero, this vacuum activity remains. And quantum vibrations occur all the time. All matter in the universe comes from zero-point electromagnetic fluctuations. Every particle of matter in our body is constantly exchanging energy with the vacuum zero. It can be said that the vacuum zero point can be everywhere. Civilizations with zero-point energy technology can extract energy at will in any cosmic space. And convert that into the energy they need. Truly inexhaustible, inexhaustible. The source crystal is the result of this vacuum zero point being affected by a special existence, so that the energy conversion occurs on its own, thus condensing into a solid. But Qin Sheng didn't understand anymore. Since the vacuum zero point can be so convenient, it can be extracted at will. Why do sixth-level civilizations need source crystals? In this regard, Dihao was laughing. The universe was created by a big singularity explosion. And how did that singularity come about? This brings us to the cosmic string truth. The energy in the vacuum vibrates all the time. This quantum vibration produces cosmic strings. And the cosmic strings combine with each other to form different cosmic membranes in different spaces. In the quantum vibration of energy, the cosmic membrane is constantly vibrating. The impact of this vibration is small, but it does exist. So, in a billion years, or 100 billion, trillion years later, a certain point in the middle of two cosmic membranes in different spatial dimensions, because of this quantum vibration, touched together. Then at this point, the vibration of the energy of the two themselves is constantly transmitted to each other. After countless years, a singularity was generated. The singularity unleashes energy accumulated over countless years. This is the great explosion of the treasure continent. Our reality, the three-dimensional universe, was born from this. And everything I just said is not really confirmed, it's just a guess. And the source crystal is in a way, the production of the source crystal has a certain degree of similarity with the universe we speculate. There may be the ultimate universe in it. Although the sixth-level civilizations, including me, don't care about this energy at all, they care about the ultimate universe. The ultimate universe. What a nihilistic theory that sounds, but it makes all the higher civilizations flock to it and go crazy about it. Whoever masters the ultimate universe will master the entire universe, or master the multiverse of the other cosmic membrane dimensions outside our side of the universe. At that time, even a truly large universe can be created at will. There was a very obvious hope and fanaticism in Dihao's tone. Obviously, the ultimate universe has an incomparably great attraction for him. And these also shocked Qin Sheng for a whole year. Episode 103, 20,000 ambush, 361,000, the advantage is in me. Subscribe. Here, I would like to give you a piece of advice. Dihao's tone had some meaning of educating his own descendants. Please speak. Qin Sheng's attitude was respectful. For Emperor Hao just now, he did not hesitate to tell Qin Sheng about those things just now. Qin Sheng also began to have respect for Emperor Hao. Be sure to get out. Emperor Hao said. Get out? That's right, out of the Milky Way. Dihao said, perhaps, in your opinion, the Milky Way galaxy is very large. However, on the scale of the entire universe, the Milky Way is nothing more than a sea of vicissitudes. Not to mention the Milky Way, just to say, the structure of the Great Wall Galaxy in the constellation of Wuxian, the constellation of the Northern Corona, which I am now in, is actually not the largest. The structure of the Great Wall Galaxy in the constellation of Fissionalis North Corona is a collection of fibrous galaxies in the real three-dimensional universe. There are multiple branches. The longest branch of galaxies, more than 10 billion light-years long, contains countless clusters of galaxies, galaxy clusters. And the shortest one is 7 billion light-years long. However, even the structural system of the Vulcan's Northern Corona galaxy is not the largest in the universe. There are countless systems like the Wuxian Northern Corona galaxy structure. The whole universe, bigger than we think, seems boundless. Sooner or later, the galaxy will be destroyed. Therefore, one day before the 17th, when you have enough strength, you must also go out of the galaxy. Oh yes. Dihao said, as if he suddenly remembered something. Facing Qin Sheng, he said, this civilization structure of yours seems to be very rare. You are the leader of civilization, a carbon-based creature, but you have not low spiritual attainments. And in your civilization, other individuals other than you are silicon-based creatures. Interesting. This structure of your civilization, after it leaves the galaxy, is likely to cause hostility from most other civilizations. Hostility? Qin Sheng had some doubts. Why? For more free Falu novels, https://discord.gg/bpy8hmhp. Because, at present, the structure of the Great Wall Galaxy in the constellation of Wuxian Northern Corona is not very peaceful. The carbon-based alliance and the silicon-based alliance are at a protracted war. It's not a dispute of interests, it's a matter of the form of one's own knowledge. Even if the carbon-based biological civilization is upgraded to a certain level, it will abandon the original biological form and may be converted to silicon, but the essence of its ideas follows a philosophical tree system that silicon-based organisms cannot understand. For silicon-based organisms, the philosophical tree logic system will completely change their ideology. It's unacceptable to them. So silicon-based organisms and carbon-based organisms do not die. You are the leader of your civilization, a carbon-based creature, which the Silicon Alliance will not agree with. But you're all silicon-based creatures, and most of the Carbon Alliance won't agree. Therefore, it is very likely that one day in the future, when you meet them, you will be hostile to both of them at the same time. Let me remind you in advance that the two alliances have an extremely wide sphere of influence, and there are multiple 6th-level civilizations joining. Both spheres of influence have spread out of the Wuxian Northern Corona Great Wall Galaxy system. Even the Raniakia supercluster, where the Milky Way is located, has their own joined civilizations. But I haven't set foot in the Milky Way yet. You have to pay attention to that. Qin Sheng bowed his head slightly. The carbon-based alliance and the silicon-based alliance, he remembered. At this time, Dihao said, there is also the chaos evil god, treacherous Qi. Among the 4 gods of chaos and evil in the universe, such as treacherous gods, treacherous Qi, fearful cruelty, erotic evil, and na dirt, the forces of treacherous Qi are the most powerful. The traitor claims to have mastered endless knowledge. And the civilization of knowledge and truth in the universe is endless. Among them, there are many high-level civilizations above the 6th level, in order to pursue the ultimate, almost crazy demon in the universe. They are in league with evil gods. I see that you seem to have a lot of marks on your body that killed the chaos evil god believers. You should also pay attention to this. This gave Qin Sheng a whole thing to lose. That said, in the galaxy, the Great Qin Empire is bombarding enemies. And out of the galaxy, are also enemies? And its gold content is obviously far more than these stinky fish rotten shrimp in the Milky Way. But then again, the current Qin Sheng, the current Great Qin Empire, is also a stinky fish and rotten shrimp in the galaxy. Okay, let me tell you so much, this communicator has not been activated for nearly 200 million years, and now it has reached its limit. In the future, if you can reach the Wuxian Northern Corona Great Wall Galaxy structure system, well, you can go to this coordinate. Come here to receive my legacy. When Qin Sheng heard this, his spirit was shocked. Yes, in just 100 million years, I have felt lonely. This shows that the development of my own philosophical tree logic system has exhausted its potential. I can't go any further. So, I'm ready to leave. Where to go? Qin Sheng asked. Go find the end of the universe. Looking for the end of the universe? Yes. Cosmic ultimateity is a vague concept. Different civilizations have different solutions because of their different philosophical tree logic systems. A hegemonic civilization believes that the universe can ultimately bring them the power to dominate the entire universe. Self-enclosed civilizations believe that the universe ultimately gives them the power to survive to the next universe. And I think the ultimate of the universe, that is, the nothingness of everything. So, I'm going to degrade my speed to infinity close to the speed of light. In this way, my own time flow rate will be extremely slow because of the effect of time expansion. A second has passed for me, and the universe may have passed tens of billions of years. So, I'm going to fly around the entire universe at speeds that are infinitely close to the speed of light. Travel through endless time, to the end of life in the universe. And I, perhaps, will find my ultimate nothingness in that dead universe. Qin Sheng felt a huge shock. Goodbye, little fellow. Oh yes, this coordinate is the coordinate in the Milky Way. There is a combined fleet of 4th-level civilizations that seem to be looking for your traces. They're after you. 2 coordinates, I've given it to you. This communicator, also leave it to you. In the future you come to the place where I left my legacy, you can use this communicator to open it. If there is a chance, we may meet at the end of the universe. Dihao's voice disappeared completely. At the same time, Avrilia's voice rang out, Your Majesty the Emperor, I have received 2 coordinate locations, and a star map. After the unknown creature sent these 2 coordinates, the energy vibrations around it completely disappeared. Qin Sheng bowed his head slightly. He took a deep breath. After digesting everything that Emperor Hao said, those 2 coordinates are turned on. One of the coordinates, not in the Milky Way, is not in the Virgo supergalactic group. Nor is it in the Raniakia cluster. The location of the coordinates, 112 billion light-years away from Qin Sheng. It is in the structure system of the Wuxian Northern Corona Great Wall Galaxy. And that star map. It is the star map of the structure of the Great Wall Galaxy in the constellation Officinalis, Northern Corona. It is a giant fiber structure with countless flashes of light. The longest point is more than 10 billion light-years. The shortest point is also 7 billion light-years. It covers countless galaxy clusters. And another coordinate. These are the coordinates in the Milky Way. There is also an image attached. Dense and spectacular, 60 star-studded battle stars are constantly sailing forward in the space of the universe. Combined fleet of galactic 4th-level civilizations. Hunting down the fleet of the Great Qin Empire. What the future holds, I don't know now. But I know that today's events are finished today. It's time to go get to these people and fix it. Qin Sheng took a deep breath, and a nice restless heart. The order was given. The whole army is ready to go. Let's go to the front of those fourth-level civilized combined fleets. Wait for them. Let's surprise them. Fourth-level civilized combined fleet. Star after star travels through the universe. During the voyage of the dense battlestar colony, its own gravitational attraction constantly causes distortions in the surrounding spacetime. As a result, the battlestar group has a very obvious trail behind. The gravitational lens trajectory is huge, and the powerful fleet is intimidating. With the passage of time, Secretary General Qi Chier's mood was getting worse and worse. Damn the great Qin Empire, it can run so much. How far have we checked? It was more than 4,000 light-years away. Qi Chier was dull inside. In his heart, he also hated such an evil civilization force as the Great Qin Empire more and more. Qi Bauer swore that as the leader of defending justice in the galaxy, he would definitely kill the Great Qin Empire. Mr. Secretary General, the advanced reconnaissance ship has detected that there is a planetary system 17 light-years away. There seems to be traces of the Great Qin Empire's leap forward. Well, the whole army advances to the planetary system 17 light-years away. After a brief fleet maintenance, move on. And 17 light-years away, in the planetary galaxy, the ambush fleet of the Great Qin Empire is hidden here. 1 Emperor battlestar, 1 neutron battlestar, 20,000 battleships ambushed them with 60 planetary battlestars, and more than 3.61 million fourth-level civilization warships. Qin Sheng dared to say that the advantage was in me. Episode 104, Your battlestar is nothing more than scrap iron. Subscribe. This is a galaxy without an official name. In the territory of the former Athos Empire, it is named JRZ 1047-21077 Galaxy. There are 2 stable star systems inside. A total of 6 planets orbit around 2 stars. Star 1 has 2 planets, and Star 2 has 4 planets. Planetary systems like this, in the entire Milky Way, there are countless more. No one would care about such a planetary system. The Galactic 4th-class civilization combined fleet, with a total of 60 planetary battlestars, has a huge fleet of more than 3.61 million ships. It is gradually entering this planetary system. Perform short trimming and probing. 60 planetary battlestars are no less than 60 real planets that have entered the galaxy. For a time, the natural space-time distortion caused by the gravitational pull of stars in the planetary system was somewhat disordered. The 5 fourth-level peak civilizations headed by them did not need much supply. However, the other parts of the coalition army, the 4th-level civilization, are needed. Although the planetary battlestar is originally a planet, it can carry a huge amount of resources. But they had not been replenished for such a long time, and the energy consumption required to start the star battlestar was also very large. Where there is consumption, there must be replenishment. As soon as the entire combined fleet entered the planetary system, a dozen battlestars scattered. Each went to find the right planet for resource collection. The Gejikari civilization is an ordinary 4th-level civilization in the coalition army. The battlestar of the Gegseri civilization is close to a planet in a galaxy. The planet is very large, with a radius of 60,000 kilometers alone. It is a huge gaseous planet. The countless propulsion systems behind the battlestar of the Gogeri civilization emitted blue flames, pushing the huge battlestar forward. But at a distance of 200,000 kilometers from a gaseous planet, it is no longer moving forward. If you move forward, I am afraid that you will break through the Roche limit between the 2 stars. Under the huge gravitational interaction of the 2, one of them disintegrates and heads towards the other star. But when the time comes, it will most likely be the huge gaseous planet. Although the radius of this gaseous planet is 60,000 kilometers, the diameter of the battlestar is only 5,000 kilometers. However, the planetary battlestar created by the technology of the 4th-level civilization is covered with a layer of strong interaction materials of the 4th-level civilization that imitates the structure of the neutron star. It is far more robust than this gaseous planet. In addition to the Gejikari civilization, 6 other battlestars have also approached the gaseous planet from different directions. The battlestar is stagnant in space, and the absolutely smooth mirror covering the surface presents a beautiful landscape of gaseous planets and the beautiful Milky Way in space. A total of 7 star-sized battlestars unleashed resources to replenish the fleet of engineered ships. Begin to travel with this planet and the battlestar. The species of the Gegsir civilization is an upright humanoid species similar to the jackal. A small reconnaissance ship more than 500 meters long broke through the atmosphere of a gaseous planet. The reconnaissance ship wrapped around the friction to generate a layer of flames, and quickly advanced downwards and landed. Moments later, the reconnaissance ship landed safely on the surface of the planet. It's time to get to work. Further collection of data to explore the planet. Several Gejekri scientists wrapped in scientifically powered armor left the reconnaissance ship under the protection of their soldiers. Although neutrino detection has been used in outer space in advance, it can only know the general situation of the planet. Gegzir is a relatively rigid old 4th-level civilization, and they only believe in things that they have personally verified. For example, this time, troops were dispatched to follow the coalition forces to encircle and suppress the Great Qin Empire. Before there was no real personal verification of the situation of the Great Qin Empire. The Gegzuri civilization did not want to send troops, but due to the orders of the parliament, it could only send out a battle star and 10,000 warships. Professor, do you really believe that the Great Qin Empire we are hunting this time is a treacherous divine choice? A younger Gejekri scientist asked the old professor next to him, who knows. The old professor lowered the detection instrument and looked up at the sky. In the sky, you can see several huge satellite-like stars. Those stars are the star-rated battle stars. There hasn't been a treacherous god in the galaxy for years. In my opinion, the Great Qin Empire does not have to be. But, no way, who let us rule the parliament this time is the Chiziram civilization. The Chichiram people, who have not entered the starry sky for thousands of years, set their own moral benchmarks, very noble. For the sake of justice, they launched this great coalition. We can only do things according to the rules of parliament. The old professor said, and the young scientist next to him nodded slightly, also looking at the sky, those huge, full moons. Sighed, yes, according to the rules, how many years of tradition have we Gejekri people have had? Professor, I think that no matter whether the Great Qin Empire is a treacherous divine choice or not, in the face of our joint fleet's pursuit this time, it can only escape with its tail between its legs. Even if he were, in just a few years, just entering the 4th-level civilization, how much strength could they have? 60 battle stars. The young scientist Gejekri was extremely emotional. He had already sighed many times, but every time he thought about it, he still couldn't help but be shocked that he had lived for hundreds of years now, and he had never seen such a huge battle. 60 battle stars, 361,000 warships. Just to hunt down a civilization. Such a big battle, how many resources must be wasted, even if the Great Qin Empire is really destroyed? Paying and returning are not directly proportional at all. Suddenly, the young scientist of Jurgieri was talking, and suddenly there was no sound. The old Professor Gejekri, who was regulating the instrument, glanced at the past. I saw that under the transparent helmet mask, there was a shocked expression. What's wrong? The old professor was stunned. Professor. Battlestar. The young scientist narrowed his eyes, opened his long kisses, and his mouth full of jackal-like teeth, kept touching up and down, shaking. It seems to have seen something greatly frightening. The old professor looked up in confusion. At this look, he was also stunned on the spot, and his blood was cold. Only to see the sky, the several huge rounds of full moon that can be intuitively seen have completely deflected their direction at this moment. One huge beam after another crossed the sky. Keep running through those huge, full moons. Even if they are 200,000 kilometers apart, separated by space, the atmosphere and the distance are obstructed, they still seem to be able to feel the terrible heat. Several huge, full moons in the sky penetrated through the beam of light in this Tao, and there was no resistance at all. Countless fragments, wreckage, were thrown down from above. Then be attracted by the huge gravitational pull of the gaseous planets. Falling into the atmosphere, the flames rising with the friction of a huge amount of air fell downwards at great speed. It's like a bunch of asteroids violently bombarding the surface. Professor. Be careful, turn on the force field. The soldiers on the ground who were responsible for protecting them roared, and an armored soldier hurriedly opened the portable land combat field barrier. Completely wrap the area of hundreds of meters around it. Boom! A wreckage falling from outer space bombarded their force field barrier and exploded with a momentary burst of violent force, almost covering tens of kilometers around them. The domains were razed to the ground. The dust has settled. The force field barrier is intact. But I saw that the old professor completely disregarded his own safety and directly stumbled out of the force field barrier. Reaching out, he directly picked up a fragment that still had a huge heat. The armor of the hand automatically cooled down, revealing the crater of the fragment, as if it had been abandoned for thousands of years. This? How is this possible? The old professor roared in utter shock. Professor. The young scientists and the soldiers around them all looked nervous. What happened? The young scientist had just finished saying this, and then his eyes were wide open and his pupils were shaking violently. How could he not recognize the fragment of the wreckage in the professor's hand? This is the remnant fragment of the Battlestar's shell, strong interaction armor. However, it should be incredibly smooth, and the surface is absolutely reflective mirror-like. Why is it so run down? Only to see the old professor trembling, he said a sentence, neutrino pulse weapon. Neutrino pulse weapon. Someone used a neutrino pulse to penetrate this strongly interacting material, go deep inside, and destroy its structure. This kind of technical means is already infinitely close to the 5th level civilization. As soon as this statement came out, everyone was shocked. Although they also have the means to use neutrinos, but only for detection, there is no such means of turning neutrinos into weapons. The soldiers looked at the sky in horror. If that's the case, they're under attack. Who can the enemy be? Great Qin Empire. That. In outer space, haven't their battlestars all become huge scrap iron collections? Become a living target without any defenses? In the middle of space, an empty space, near a huge gaseous planet. 3 star-sized battlestars with a diameter of more than 5,000 kilometers were not convenient. Attacked by a sudden neutrino pulse. The strong interaction structure of the planetary battlestar shell was destroyed. One by one, they instantly turned into a huge scrap iron collection of planets in space. Under the successive blows of the Laplace heavy fast-speed light spear. These 3 star-studded battlestars exploded in space, disintegrated, and... Episode 105, Chi-Chi or Shock. The horrors of the Great Qin Empire. Subscribe. 3 huge battlestars were destroyed, and the surrounding space area, surrounded by tens of thousands of warships with 3 battlestars, was in chaos. Battleships are constantly being pushed away from this area by the aftermath of battlestar explosions. Personnel floating in outer space for maintenance outside the battleship let out a scream that only they could hear. The body tumbles in space. A sudden spear of scorching light instantly penetrated through this space and passed over his body. In an instant, his whole being was vaporized, turning into a wisp of smoke floating in space. Then the wisp of smoke also quickly dissipated and ceased to exist. And the scorching spear of light only passed by, and the real target was a star-rated battlestar that was still intact. The fast sunlight spear directly broke through the space warp force field shield of Battlestar. Hit the surface of Battlestar. On the surface of the Battlestar, the layer of strong interaction shell covered by it was under the continuous blow of the Laplace heavy tackle-on light spear. The neutrons composed of materials are constantly being wiped out. Even if it is a strong interaction material, it cannot block the blow of the Laplace heavy fast sunlight spear. Circumvention. Circumvent. Get out of the other person's percussive field of vision, hide behind the planet. Inside the few surviving battlestars, the roar of commanders was heard. Of course, they knew that the gaseous planet was not at all as hard as their battlestar, but the gaseous planet is huge, with a radius of 60,000 kilometers, and from the field of vision, it is not a problem to block more than a dozen battlestars with a diameter of thousands of kilometers. There are 7 battlestars surrounding the gaseous planets. But under the sudden first round of blows, 3 were directly scrapped. The remaining 4 surviving battlestars showed good qualities in addition to being shocked. They chose to quickly hide behind the gaseous planet, using the huge gaseous planet to block their battlestar first. Temporarily deprive enemies of battlestar dynamics. If they were facing an ordinary 4th level civilization, the other party would use neutrinos to probe their position behind the planet. And this probe also takes time. This is the time when they survive or fight back directly. However, they are not facing an ordinary 4th level civilization. It was the ambush fleet of the Great Qin Empire. The Emperor Battlestar came out from the center of the planetary system, behind the star at that moment. The exterior of the absolutely smooth, absolutely reflective mirror reflects the stellar light that looks almost flat at hand. It was as if the Emperor Battlestar had become a small star. It is close to the star, but the Emperor Battlestar is not affected by it in the slightest. Instead, it has taken advantage of the huge stars that release the solar wind all the time to hide themselves. So that the other party is not aware. Meow. At that moment the gaseous planet destroyed him. In the Imperial Battlestar Central Control Room, Qin Sheng ruthlessly once again issued the order to destroy the planet. Since you want to cover yourself with gaseous planets, I will simply destroy your bunkers. The 4 surviving planetary battlestars exhibited a powerful maneuvering power that did not match their massive bodies several kilometers in diameter. In just a few seconds, it was hiding behind a huge gaseous planet. But in just a few seconds, the massive body of one of the planetary battle stars was hit by a neutrino disintegration pulse and a Laplace heavy tackle-on light spear on the upper channel. When the planetary battle star managed to hide behind the gaseous planet, it was scrapped. Under the huge inertia, the star battlestar flew directly and quickly towards the space on the other side. The remaining three hid inside the planetary battlestar of the gaseous planet, and the commanders were all relieved to have central control of the battlestar commander. It was a temporary escape. At the same time, a great fear arose in their hearts. Why? How did they get attacked? How many enemies are there? Was it the Great Qin Empire that sneaked up on them? Why is the firepower of the Great Qin Empire so strong? This is simply not like the level of a fourth-level civilization. Hurry up and contact the Secretary General. Let them hurry up and support, and if they continue like this, we'll all be finished. The battlestar commander almost roared at these words. He was anxious. A coalition of 50 civilizations, 60 planetary battle stars, and more than 361,000 warships within this galaxy. Why are they the only ones attacked? Just because they're unlucky? However, the newsletter has just been sent. They suddenly detected an anomaly. And that anomaly came from the gaseous planets that stood in their way. Giant gaseous planets with a radius of 60,000 kilometers and the distance between them do not exceed 300,000 kilometers. In an instant, the scorching giant beam of light penetrated the diameter of the giant gaseous planet for 120,000 kilometers. Just punch it through. After piercing it, it was not finished, and it directly hit the planetary star battlestar behind the gaseous planet that used it as a piece of body in the night vision. The Laplace heavy fast tech light spear wantonly destroys the microscopic neutron structure of the strongly interacting material on the surface of the battlestar. It can be said that every weapon on the neutron battlestar of the Great Qin Empire is basically specially targeted at strong interaction materials. In particular, the Laplace heavy tackle-on light spear, as mentioned earlier, has the characteristic of attacking in tandem with photons that exist in another layer of dimensional space in 3 dimensions. Therefore, it can directly bypass the strong interaction force acting on the 3 dimensions and directly destroy its structure. The Laplace heavy tachyon light spear, although the technical level is the level of the 4th level peak civilization. But because it is the particularity of the Qin Sheng system that has been strengthened by the dry double. Therefore, the 4th level peak civilization within the galaxy does not have such a weapon. In other words, most of the 4th level peak civilizations in the universe do not have such weapons. They hadn't even heard of it. The hundreds of upper path fast spears of light that followed penetrated the gaseous planet and directly hit a star-like battlestar in the rear. Amid the terrified cries of the commander inside the battlestar, the entire 5,500-kilometer diameter battlestar began to disintegrate. Disintegrate along with the huge gaseous planet ahead. What's going on? Suddenly receiving the news that part of the coalition fleet had been attacked, Qi, who was suspended in the air of the control room, was shocked. Mr. Secretary General, it is the Great Qin Empire. They ambushed this galaxy and suddenly attacked the 7 civilizations in the coalition that were resupplying the planet. The virtual 3-dimensional image in front of him suddenly appeared, which was the group finance of the North Galaxy Weiyang, Great Qin Empire. Are they really here? Qi was first shocked, and then followed by excitement. Finally let them touch it. The efforts made during this time have not been in vain. What happened to the 7 civilizations that were attacked? Will they be able to hold back the Great Qin Empire and wait for the support of other civilizations? It doesn't take long, a few minutes of delay is enough. Here Qi communicated with the group finance, and at the same time extended several tentacles to use the nerves on the tentacles to connect the control room, issuing orders to all the other civilization fleets. As the top level of the 4th level peak civilization, they have basically carried out brain intelligence. To describe them as a disparaging adjective. At least it's a good idea. Talking to each other while directing the fleet into battle was not any difficulty for them. So, for the 4th level Daifeng civilization. Between laughter and laughter, destroying enemies billions of miles away is the absolute norm. I'm afraid it's going to be hard. Admiral Xingchen of the Shilua military state appeared in the form of a figure. As far as I know, they are basically about to be completely destroyed, and I have already made arrangements for the fleet under the demon to encircle the Great Qin Empire. The whole army is destroyed. Qi was shocked. How terrifying is the strength of the Great Qin Empire? How long had it been since they had just made a move, and they had directly crushed the fleets of 7 4th-level civilizations with the power of thunder? It seems that we can't take the enemy lightly anymore. We have to do our best. Guys, be serious. Straight up, they couldn't take the Great Qin Empire in their eyes. After all, a combined fleet of 5 4th-level peak civilizations and 45 galactic top 50 4th-level civilizations. Although this is far from their full strength. But such a big battle was only because a Great Qin Empire was dispatched. It is inevitable that anyone will have some contempt in their hearts. But now, Chi deeply felt how strong the strength of the Great Qin Empire really was. Directly defeat the 7 4th-level civilization fleets with the power of thunder. The giant gaseous planet has been completely destroyed. Disintegrating in space. Countless planetary wreckage floats in space, almost filling the space area of millions of armor around it. In this space area, there are also the wreckage left by the destruction of 7 planetary battle stars. The 7 battle stars no longer had the brilliance they had been before, and each of them was like a broken moon, and a huge body like scrap iron floated in this ocean of space wreckage. Around this space region, other 4th-level civilization fleets that had rushed to support had arrived. Fleets of 5 4th-level pinnacle civilizations gathered. And Qin Sheng also understood. Those other 4th-level civilizations are just foils. The real big head is still the 5 4th-level peak civilizations. Episode 106, How the Neutron Battlestar Swept Through a River System. What is the state of the fleets of civilizations now? As the Secretary-General of the Parliament of the Community of Galactic Civilizations, Chi is also the Supreme Commander of this joint operation. Except for the fleet of the 7 civilizations that have been completely defeated, the rest of the civilization fleet is encircling the battlestar of the Great Qin Empire. And on the side of the Great Qin Empire, there doesn't seem to be any reaction, as if it's waiting for us to close, waiting for us to close. The Great Qin Emperor is so confident? Chi Barium couldn't help but feel surprised. Even if your Great Qin Empire is strong, then no matter what, our side is also a coalition of dozens of civilizations. Your Great Qin Emperor is so trusting? Chi felt that he was insulted. Let's attack it. Admiral Star of the hero military state snorted coldly, and the 3 eyes on his face flashed with fierce light. The hero military state, as an early military civilization that made its fortune through war, the most important thing is the glory of the war process. Now the Great Qin Empire looked like it was obviously directly contemptuous of them. This makes the stars who have already carved the glory of war into their minds, and how will the stars of their own civilization's system of moral standards and norms be able to bear it? Mr. Secretary General, I look at the Star Sea Fleet of our hero military state as the main attack. Admiral Xingchen said directly to Chi Barium. Okay. As the main attacker, Chi Kairam and the Northern Galactic Weiyang, the Iron Curtain Starry Sky Civilization, are responsible for the other directions of the front. Pioneer the Gong Civilization, responsible for leading the rest of the civilization fleet to bypass and completely encircle the fleet of the Great Qin Empire. Avoid them escaping. After only thinking about it for 1,000th of a second, Chi Barium gave a simple solution. Completely encircle the fleet of the Great Qin Empire. After the respective divisions of labor have been determined, the combined fleet of the 4th-level civilization began its operation. The star-studded battle stars began to disperse. Around each of the star-studded battle stars, there are densely packed battleships. 53 planetary battle stars and more than 3 million warships were fully spread out in this planetary system. It seems that they can be compared with the Milky Way of countless dazzling stars in space. Okay, they're all set. Remember what I just arranged to defeat them all, but don't destroy them all. Among the Emperor battlestars, Qin Sheng immediately made arrangements. And his arrangement naturally has its own deep meaning. There is another reason for this. That is, he was afraid that after releasing the neutron battlestar inside the Emperor battlestar, he would directly scare away from the opposite side. Neutron battlestar, unlike ordinary battlestars. Ordinary 4th-level civilizations had never even heard of it. However, Qin Sheng believed that the 5 4th-level peak civilizations headed by them should still know about the neutron battlestar. Qin Sheng and the others were naturally close to him. As for the other civilizations, they don't even have to care. These combined fleets were assembled under the leadership of 5 4th-level peak civilizations. Many of them don't want to fight at all. As long as the 5 leaders were defeated, the rest naturally collapsed. Accompanied by the other person's approach. Centered on the Emperor's battlestar, with a radius of 120 billion kilometers. It was already surrounded by a combined fleet of 4th-level civilizations. Up and down, left and right, front and back, no matter which direction, you can see a huge star battlestar, and the dense battleship that surrounds the battle star. In the eyes of the people of the 4th-level civilization combined fleet, the Great Qin Empire had been completely encircled. Even in the direction of the stars, there are several battle stars of the 4th level civilization to carry out gravitational distortion blockade. Block the transition passage. Do not let the Great Qin Empire escape. The 3-star stars of the Hierothic Empire and 300,000 warships serve as the main frontal attack. Good. The enclosure is complete. Chi-Chi's heart was excited. Wait to get closer than 100 billion kilometers and get into range. 12 billion kilometers. 110 billion kilometers. 100 billion kilometers. Just when the combined fleet gradually narrowed the encirclement, and finally, the radius of the encirclement was reduced to 100 billion kilometers. The Emperor Battlestar has moved. Only to see the Emperor Battlestar release a small battlestar inside. Chi-Chi, who had observed the action, felt a sharp tightening in his heart. A bad premonition came straight into his heart. Compared with the 1,200 kilometer diameter Emperor Battlestar, this small battlestar is very inconspicuous. The diameter is only 20 kilometers. However, this was only 20 kilometers in diameter, but in the instant of appearance, it released an incomparably powerful pulse. Instantly enveloped all the 4th level civilization warships that were close by. Neutrino pulse jamming device. In an instant, the leaders of all the 4th level civilization fleets heard shouts of consternation from their subordinates. Commander! Our battleship's faster-than-light engine suddenly failed. Commander, the faster-than-light engine has inexplicably failed. Warning, warning, battleship faster-than-light engine module failure. In the Battlestar central control room, Chi-Chi, who was suspended in the air, was shocked, and all the tentacles spread out and went deep into the console. Check it out immediately. After the examination, he was shocked. Invalidated. It really doesn't work. Not only his star-rated Battlestar, but all the other battleships immediately reported that the faster-than-light engine had been inexplicably interfered with and was currently in a state of failure. What? How can it be? What kind of jamming weapon is this, interfering with the faster-than-light engines of our allied 53 battlestars and more than 3 million warships in an instant? After a moment of shock, Chi-Chi immediately felt a bad premonition that made him feel frightened. I am afraid that this war is not their joint siege of the Great Qin Empire. Instead, it was a civilization of the Great Qin Empire that surrounded the coalition of their remaining 43 civilizations. The Neutron Battlestar is backed by the Emperor Battlestar. More than 20,000 warships of the Great Qin Empire were distributed in the starry sky. Compared with the enemy's huge fleet, the military strength of the Great Qin Empire looked very weak. But at this moment, it can really show that magnificent fangs. It seems to be able to swallow the entire starry sky. At this moment, the fleet of the Great Qin Empire took the lead in launching an attack. More than 20,000 Laplace heavy fast gun spears bloomed their true dazzling light in the starry sky. High-energy antimatter curvature missiles. Various models of tachyon light spears. Microscopic particle decomposition weapons. Numerous. The warships of the Great Qin Empire were equipped with the most weapons, or the fast light spear. Have to say, Quasi-light spear is the first in the world. The cry from Qin Sheng, such a light spear divine sect. The hero military fleet, which bore the brunt of it, was directly overwhelmed by this split-head, incomparably fast, dense, and powerful attack. The countless Laplace heavy fast sun light spears directly ignored the space-distorting force field shields equipped on the battleships of the hero military fleet. Then direct bombardment, disintegration, penetration. Coherent. The preliminary electromagnetic digestion molecularly enhanced alloy armor used by the battleships of the 4th level peak civilization could not be stopped in the slightest. After all, the unique nature of the Laplace fast sun optical spear is that even strong interaction materials can penetrate the existence. In an instant, tens of thousands of battleships of the hero military were destroyed in space. Transform into a flower of light that dots the galaxy in space. Pan. What? Admiral Starr of the hero's military state was shocked by the battle damage in front of him. He was extremely experienced in warfare, but as soon as the two sides made contact, they destroyed tens of thousands of warships. He had never played yet. I didn't even think about it. What weapons were used by the Great Qin Empire? But he could not withdraw. Since the main task is to say it yourself. But for the glory of the hero soldiers. He can't withdraw until the whole army is destroyed. The soldiers of the hero military state, no matter how powerful the enemy is, no matter how heavy the casualties, they can put their lives on the outside and launch a glorious attack and charge against the enemy. Never back down. Fight to the death. Admiral Starr gave the order. In the past, in the history of the War of the Hero military state, Admiral Starr also issued such orders many times. But that's often the point where a war is at its most intense, or it's coming to an end. There has never been a situation where such a cold fate has been issued directly from the beginning. Even the stars have separated themselves from the star battle star. Personally command a stormtrooper-class cruiser and attack forward. Be a pioneer. However, this death-glory charge of the hero military state is only a death sentence. Under the heavy, fast, and continuous powerful firepower of the Great Qin Empire fleet. On average, the average hero warship survived less than 2 seconds. The fleets of other civilizations also suffered losses, but none of them were like the hero military, which was crazy to attack and lose crazy. It's a neutron battle star. Suddenly, the commander-in-chief of the Iron Curtain Starry Sky civilization, who had been silent and taciturn, and seemed to never speak, the Starry Sky Tower suddenly began to speak. What? Chi-Chi was stunned. Neutron battlestar? Yes. That neutron battlestar I'm thinking of? When the group finance heard this name, it swallowed some nervously. That's right, Mr. Secretary General. Withdraw. Unlike you, you've all only heard of the neutron battlestar, but our Iron Curtain star civilization comes from beyond the Milky Way. I've seen the neutron battlestar with my own eyes. I've seen for myself how a neutron battlestar swept across a river system. Our civilization was defeated and then exiled into the galaxy, and I can best understand the horrors of the neutron battlestar. With the strength of our present assemblage, it was impossible to defeat the Great Qin Empire with the neutron battlestar. Only by retreating for a while, and then assembling the entire fleet, will it be possible to defeat the neutron battlestar. The tone of Starry Sky Tower's speech was very indifferent. He had always been like this, and seemed to have no emotion. Retreat. Chi-Chi Barium hesitated. Ding. Episode 107. I gave you a chance, and you won't be able to use it. Subscribe. To tell the truth, as soon as the war began, the Star Sea fleet of the Hero Army, as the main attack, suffered huge losses. It kind of scared him. The 4 dimensions of strong intelligence quickly connected the situation of the rest of the civilization fleet, and quickly thought and calculated. Soon Chi-Chi Barium was able to figure out the current ratio of losses between the enemy and us. 1 to 10,000. In just that short period of time, the entire civilization coalition had lost more than tens of thousands of warships. Especially the hero military state as the main attacker. They have lost a lot. There were even more than 2 stars of the Shilua military state that had been destroyed by the Great Qin Empire. And what about their results? Only a few warships of the Great Qin Empire were destroyed. The space distortion force field shields of the Great Qin Empire battleships were obviously stronger than their shields. A Great Qin Empire warship, facing hundreds of 4th-level Civilization Alliance warships, did not fall behind. Even if it was the destroyed battleship of the Great Qin Empire, it was hit by chance by the main cannon of the Star Battlestar of the Civilized Alliance. After the calculations were made, Chica Bauer knew that even if all the 3 million Orith warships present were filled in, it could only replace more than 100 warships of the Great Qin Empire. But now retreat. How to withdraw? The neutron pulse interference of the Great Qin Empire's neutron battlestar had rendered their faster-than-light engines ineffective. Without the faster-than-light engine device, even if they retreated, they would not be able to run out of the range of the Great Qin Empire fleet. It couldn't run the battleships of the Great Qin Empire. In the end, it was still caught up by the battleships of the Great Qin Empire, and it was easier to eliminate that. Surrender? Chi-Chi Barium immediately rejected the idea. As the first person of the galactic righteous civilization, he could not surrender to such an evil country as the Great Qin Empire. Don't. There is only one option left: to die in battle? Chi-Chier was not afraid to die in battle, but he was a little reluctant. Obviously, it was their 4th-level Civilization Alliance army that pursued the Great Qin Empire. How could the situation of the war be directly reversed? The current situation has put Chi-Chi Barium in a dilemma. Run, can't run. Keep fighting, it's a death. Chi-Chier's thinking above consumes only 1,000th of a second of real time. At this time, Chi-Chi Barium heard the surprised shouts of the staff officer. The faster-than-light engine has recovered. Faster-than-light engines have been restored. What? Chi-Chier was first stunned, and then reacted quickly. Orders were given to the whole army. Don't miss an opportunity. Faster-than-light engines have been restored. The battle had already failed, and all the allied warships immediately forced themselves into a faster-than-light state and withdrew from the battlefield. We, the Chi-Chi-Ram civilization, will cover your evacuation. It has to be said that Chi-Chier is worthy of being a figure of the 4th-level peak civilization who has made an ideological leap. He didn't know when the faster-than-light engine would fail again. But at such a moment, Chi-Chi's first thought was not to withdraw himself, but to let those weaker civilizations take the lead in retreating. He led the fleet to the top, providing cover for the retreat of those civilizations. The order to retreat was given? Mr. Secretary General has ordered that the war has failed, withdraw. Great. Come on. The whole group immediately forced themselves into a faster-than-light state and withdrew. For a time, the many fourth-level civilization fleets that besieged the Great Qin Empire fleet were very clean and neat, and directly entered the faster-than-light state without dragging mud and water. Then evacuate in all directions. This flagship, the fleet of the Chichiram civilization, began to exert force, rushing to the forefront, attracting the firepower of the Great Qin Empire fleet. Cover for the evacuation of the fleets of ordinary civilizations. One after another, fast spears of light seemed to cut the entire starry sky, flying around in space. The antimatter missile equipped with a 400-fold warp engine at the speed of light dragged the streamer of curvature bubble light, almost instantaneously spanning hundreds of billions of kilometers of starry sky. Hit a battleship of the Chizaram civilization. The annihilation of the collision of positive and negative matter, the huge energy generated by the collision enveloped the hull of the Chizaram civilization warship. Cut it off and split it in half in space. But all the Chizarams were united in their determination to continue to control the battleship's advance, despite casualties. Even in defeat, their morale is high. And the Emperor Battlestar Central Control Room. Qin Sheng frowned. You won't be able to give you a chance. He had just specifically ordered the neutron pulse jamming device to be turned off, to allow the enemy's faster-than-light engine to function. The purpose is to let the other party escape. But now, instead of withdrawing, Chizatram's fleet continued to attack vigorously. Cover the evacuation of other civilizations. All of our units are dead to inflict heavy damage on the enemy, but don't destroy them completely. To allow the enemy commander to successfully evacuate. After the order is issued. For Qin Sheng, the Chi-Chi-Lum civilization of the fourth-level peak civilization was more important than other civilizations. Because the Tsitsiram civilization has the highest degree of development. This supreme is not to say that they are military weapons. Rather, it is their achievements in other areas. For example, strong intelligent technology, biological gene programming techniques, etc. These technologies, the Chintram civilization, is very outstanding. The key is that these technologies are also impossible for Qin Sheng to obtain by destroying enemy warships through war. Therefore, if Qin Sheng wanted to get these technologies, he had to make a bureau. Let the enemy commander withdraw. Then the Great Qin Empire fleet will track down and wait until it finds the enemy's home planet, directly conduct large-scale landing operations, seize the computers of the Chizaram civilization, large data repositories, etc. To supplement the technology tree of the Great Qin Empire. To tell the truth, Qin Sheng had always been disposed of by destroying the enemy's planet before. But now it seems that this method is cool, but the benefits are too low. The enemy's full set of scientific and technological information is stored on the planet. Qin Sheng directly blew up the planet and got nothing. Therefore, from now on, there was no need for Qin Sheng to choose to explode the stars. Instead, go directly to the landing operation and grab the other side's scientific and technological information. To make up for some of the deficiencies of its own technology tree. Even if the other party's civilization level is low, it is a first-level civilization, it is still valuable. After all, there are differences between the Chinese races of the universe. Thinking is also mostly different. The thinking of creatures of different civilizations will also lead to slight differences in the technological tree between different civilizations. For example, if a fourth-level civilization encounters a first-level civilization with unique thinking, then this first-level civilization may have some scientific and technological data and theories conceived under the unique thinking. Probably not in this fourth-level civilization. In this case, even if it is a first-level civilization technology, it may play a big role in the fourth-level civilization. This is not about the level of technology, but the difference in thinking theory. If we continue like this, we will really completely eliminate the other party. In order to evacuate the enemy, so that the Great Qin Empire can find their home planet. Qin Sheng deliberately did not turn on the neutron pulse interference again. Episode 108, Your Mother Star is quite able to hide. Let me be healthy. Subscribe. I didn't call until this afternoon, there were so few updates yesterday, it wasn't intentional by the author, please forgive me. Red bean puree, intimate Marseille. Bowing, the Kakinchu of the Chizaram civilization finally withdrew from the battlefield. But their losses were severe. Before Chizaram. The remaining 3 fourth-level peak civilizations have also been evacuated. Until the end, if they did not withdraw, the Great Qin Empire would really wipe them all out, and Qin Sheng secretly released water again. Chi-Chi was finally the last to withdraw from the battlefield. In the space of the universe, 3 star-rated battle stars that have been severely damaged are wrapped in curvature bubbles and sail in space. These 3 star-rated battle stars are very embarrassed. Among them, the most deeply damaged has almost turned into a round of broken moon. From the outside, you can see the dense metal structure inside. Even the inner nucleus was faintly leaking out. If not, there is still a relatively good space distortion force field supporter current battlestar form. Otherwise, under the action of its own gravity, the entire battlestar would collapse on its own. At this moment, the Kikram battleship surrounding the battlestar was also very little. Less than 20,000 ships. When they came, there were more than 300,000 warships. But now there are more than 19,000 ships left. In this way, there are basically injuries. In this battle, the 4th-level Civilization Alliance army can be said to be a fiasco. The entire army destroyed the 4th-level Civilization fleet, as many as 20-17. Among them, the 4th-level peak civilization of the Shilua military state, because of the influence of its own ideological steel seal, the Star Admiral launched a deadly battle and did not retreat. The Hyrant Empire had 3 star-like battle stars and 300,000 warships were destroyed. Admiral Star himself was killed. 60 planetary battle stars, more than 3.61 million warships, and the final safe evacuation, I am afraid that less than 20% of the total. It can be said that it was a complete fiasco. Damn. How could the Great Qin Empire have a neutron battlestar? Under the influence of the neutron battlestar of the Great Qin Empire, the faster-than-light engines of our warships cannot be used, and even the propulsion speed of conventional engines, the power of weapons, and the rate of fire are also affected. In this situation, how can we defeat the Great Qin Empire? Chi-Chi Barium was suspended in the central control room of the lightest injured planet battlestar, and the jellyfish tentacles on his body were also hanging down in frustration. Yes, we must find a way to solve the neutron battlestar of the Great Qin Empire. That way we can win. Otherwise, there's no way to fight. As soon as the neutron battlestar appeared on the battlefield, the impact was too great. Mr. Secretary General, shall we return to the home planet? At this time, the officer next to him asked Chi-Chi Barium. Go back, but we'll have to do a few more stellar transitions. But we must not let the people of the Great Qin Empire follow us back to the home planet. Otherwise, it's all over. Chi-Chi Barium rode. Understood, Mr. Secretary General. The 3 heavily damaged battlestars of the Kikram civilization began to jump in space around less than 20,000 warships, artificially creating gravitational warp points in space, inducing cosmic strings. A star was then randomly selected as the destination. Make space jumps. The mutilated planetary battlestar is fixed by the space warp force field to maintain its basic shape. The portal channel for the space transition is open. Under the azure glow, the 3 heavily damaged star battlestars reluctantly drove in, surrounded by less than 20,000 Kikram warships and entering the space transition portal together. Subsequently, the blue glow disappeared. The spacetime of this space has returned to calm. Become empty again. Moments later, in the middle of this empty space, a blue light suddenly appeared. A small reconnaissance ship appeared. The reconnaissance ship was pitch black, and a small blood-red seal was carved with the word Qin on the deck. After the appearance of this reconnaissance ship, it began to explore the gravitational space around it. Waves of gravitational pull appeared around the reconnaissance ship. After the fleet of the Tsinkram civilization left, the gravitational warp point, which had not yet had time to recover, was discovered by the reconnaissance ship. After the reconnaissance ship sent a faster-than-light tachyon communication into the dark deep space, it also turned on the space jump engine of the star system. It chased in the direction of the migration of the Kikram civilization fleet. At this moment, it seems that the attack and defense have changed shape. Before that, it was a huge number of 4th-level civilization combined fleets that followed the traces of the Great Qin Empire. Now, it was the reconnaissance ships of the Great Qin Empire that tracked the fleet of the Kikram civilization. JRZ 1047-21077 Galaxy. The 4th-level Civilization Alliance fleet was ambushed by the Great Qin Empire in this planetary system. At this moment, in the planetary system, 2 stars are still moving in their established orbits. Of the 6 planets in the planetary system, 1 is missing at the moment. In one of the planet's original space coordinates, dense debris floats through the space region. One after another was completely scrapped, like a huge broken metal planet, and the remnants of the battle star that had been destroyed in this space were in it. Qin Sheng was counting the gains this time. You destroyed the Gigsuri civilization, a 4th-level civilization warship, and got a technical value of 150,000. You destroyed the Hero Warlord civilization, a Class 4 civilization warship, and gained a technical value of 250,000. You get 577.6 billion technical points. 1,000 times increase, you've got 577,600 billion technical points. You destroyed the planet battle star of the Gigsir civilization and gained a skill point, billion. You destroyed the star battle star of the Hero Warlord and gained a technical value, 2 billion. You destroyed the star battle star of the Hero Warlord and gained a technical value, 2 billion. You get 790.5 billion technical points. 1,000 times increase, you get 750,500 billion technical points. In this battle, a total of technical value was obtained, 65,710 billion. Current technical value reserves, 6,578,675 billion. To Qin Sheng's disappointment, this time the battle was still only a huge amount of technical value. As for useful new technologies, basically nothing. It seems that it is necessary to directly rob people's home stars and grab a set of perfect scientific and technological data trees through the method I said before. Qin Sheng pondered in his heart. It was at this time that he received a quick-skin communication pursuing the reconnaissance ships of the escaped fleet of the Chizarum civilization. Very good, has successfully caught up. Qin Sheng bowed his head slightly, and sent an order, continue to pursue until you find the other party's home star. Subsequently, Qin Sheng began to record a list. On this list are the names of various civilizations. Most of them were civilizations that participated in this 4th-level civilization combined fleet. Basically, they are the top 50 civilizations in the galaxy. Among them, ranked first. It is the peak of the 4th level, the Kikrum civilization. Subsequently, the Hero Military State, the Northern Galactic Weiyang, the Pioneering Civilization, and the Iron Curtain Starry Sky Civilization. Of course, Qin Sheng's list of civilizations had his own plans. First of all, for the civilizations at the top of this list, Qin Sheng was going to strike them. And the civilization that ranks medium and low on the list, Qin Sheng was going to woo them. Qin Sheng had his own plans. He wanted to establish an alliance of civilization systems headed by the Great Qin Empire in the galaxy. After all, if you rely on your own power alone, you want to rule the entire galaxy. It's powerless. Although the Milky Way is nothing in the universe, it is also 100,000 light-years in diameter. Relying solely on a civilization in the Great Qin Empire cannot be ruled. Not to mention, Qin Sheng would have to leave the galaxy in the future and go to the wider universe. And by humans? None of the human players in the galaxy have yet developed to a 2nd-level civilization. Although the Emperor Divine sect among humans was loyal to Qin Sheng. But their strength is still 763 is too weak. However, after all, they all belonged to the same human race, and they were Qin Sheng's clan. In the future, after Qin Sheng establishes a new galactic system, it can also play a certain role in helping human compatriots. Now Qin Sheng's strength is different from the past, and it can be said that it is the only one in the galaxy. Under this strength, Qin Sheng's pattern naturally had to be opened. Otherwise, the pattern is not enough, and no matter how strong the strength is. After having a simple idea, Qin Sheng began to wait. The reconnaissance ships waiting for the tracking find the home planet of the Chizarum civilization. During this period, Qin Sheng used technical values to embody 505-level primary strong interaction material conversion machines. 5 million technical values were spent. Qin Sheng's technical value remained 1,578,675 billion. The daily production of new highly interactive materials reached 5,090 tons very quickly, and 6 months passed in a flash. Half a year later, Qin Sheng finally received the reconnaissance ship's fast sun communication. The coordinates of the home star of the Chizarum civilization have been found. Finally found it. It's quite hidden. Qin Sheng looked at the path of Qi-Chi's remaining fleet on the virtual panel in front of him. In order to avoid the Great Qin Empire from tracking them, Qi-Chi's remnant fleet moved back and forth more than 20,000 times within the range of tens of thousands of light years. Even in the same galaxy, they can make thousands of detours back and forth in an extremely complex route before eventually returning to their home planet. However, they thought that this would be able to shake off the tracking of the Great Qin Empire, which was just wishful thinking. And Qin Sheng has not been idle for half a year. After half a year of manufacturing, the new strong interaction material has finally exceeded the reserve of 1 million tons. These new strong interaction materials, Qin Sheng, all used to create single-soldier power armor and large armor units of landing forces. Qin Sheng had prepared a planet landing force, with 10 million tactical humanoid maidens, 17 million street heli elite maidens, and 13 million etheric dragon maidens. A planet landing force totaling 20 million soldiers. Episode 109, Turn Me Into a Jellyfish Lady. Subscribe. The Chizaram Civilization. The home star of the Qin civilization, cantilevered in the constellation Sagittarius in the Milky Way. It is 40,000 light-years away from the center of the Milky Way. The parent galaxy of Chizaram is called the Narcissus Galaxy. The Narcissus Galaxy is a stable single-star system. There is only one star in the galaxy, and the gravitational pull that emanates is bound to see the 12 planets in the planetary system. The home planet of Tsitsitzalom, the planet Tsitsitzitsum. The planet Chizitram is not a terrestrial planet. It's a huge, gaseous planet. In the past, gaseous planets did not have land. But strictly speaking, there are also lands among gaseous planets. It is the core of the planet. The surface of the core is land. When the combined fleet of the fourth-level civilization was ambushed, the gaseous planets landed by the Gejikari civilization directly landed on the core. The Chizarams look like jellyfish. But they were not born in the water. They were born near the gaseous layer of the giant gaseous planet Chizitram, the stratosphere. The Chizarams are born to fly. They have lived in the air since their birth. In the vast gaseous layer of the gaseous planets, a variety of life forms and plants are born, and the Earth is very different. The original Chichiram people were very large in size, and the smallest diameter was more than 10 meters. It floats and swims with the flow of the atmosphere of the planet Xizaram. Because lightning above the planets is very frequent and powerful. This allowed them to evolve into a unique generator. Every Chinchiram person is able to emit electricity from his own organs. The unique and exceptionally talented Chizitram people first realized the existence of electromagnetic forces. It can be said that the unique Kikram people understood the use of electric energy in the first industrial revolution. After hundreds of years of development, due to the presence of this large amount of liquid hydrogen and liquid helium in the gaseous layer of the planet Chizaram, the Chizaram people, who have reached their limits, cannot develop downwards. It is natural, upward development. They touched space very early on. Their blessed bodies make them naturally immune to most of the radiation in space. However, the planet Chizaram is a gaseous planet. Gaseous planets are huge, and gravity is huge. The escape velocity is 61 kilometers per second. But there is a fatal problem. On the planet Xizaram, there is life very different from the life form of Earth. Due to the frequent lightning flashes on the planets, some of the life born in the airflow layer are extremely conductive. Some are naturally insulated. The use of these materials, coupled with the natural talent of the Chichi-Roma for the use of electrical energy. They made computers. But these materials are not enough for them to manufacture qualified aircraft. If it is not solved, then the Kikram people will be trapped at an escape speed of 61 kilometers per second. Never leave the planet. Right here. The Tsitsitsins discovered a unique and naturally qualified flying machine. That's their own body. For the sake of common will, for the yearning for the starry sky of the universe. Elderly people in the Chizaram clan committed suicide. After giving tens of millions of lives, the Chinchiram had finally accumulated enough bodies for the dead. Harnessed their own unique biotechnology. Successfully built a biological spaceship that was strong enough and light enough. 4,000 years ago, the first Chizarams began to accelerate on a spaceship made of the bodies of their dead people. The acceleration of gravity on the planet Xizaram is 27 meters per second. Because the material is light enough and strong enough, they were able to start accelerating at an acceleration of 27 meters per second. After accelerating for less than an hour, their ship managed to surpass the planet's escape velocity of 61 kilometers per second. At that moment, all the Chichi-Roma people boiled. They left the planet where they were born and officially entered the treasure universe. Without that group of self-sacrificing tribesmen, there would be no Chizaram people today. Chizaram people, tough, kind, noble. After they entered the universe and the starry sky, they did not lose themselves, but adhered to the bottom line. Finally, 4,000 years later, it has become one of the 5 fourth-level peak civilizations in the galaxy. Chi-Chi barium floated in the cosmic starry sky, like the body of a jellyfish suspended. He recalled the history of his own family, an epic full of pride and tenacity. He looked at the brown-red planet that was thousands of kilometers away, suspended in space. The 2 huge tornadoes that blow on the huge gaseous planet all year round look like the 2 eyes of the planet. It seemed to be tens of millions of kilometers away, staring at him mercilessly. The people of Chizaram, I have been defeated. The neutron battle star of the great Qin Empire is too powerful. I initiated this expedition, but I failed. Millions of people's lives have been sacrificed in vain. I'm guilty. I can no longer uphold the justice of the galaxy. In the middle of the icy space, thousands of umbrella-shaped warships crossed into space and formed a circle 5 kilometers in diameter. At the very center of the circle is Qi, whose pink jelly-like body is trembling. Mr. Secretary General. It's not your fault, you don't have to. Come back soon. Your life is invaluable, and the people of Chizaram are still waiting for your leadership. Mr. Secretary General. Hundreds of electromagnetic wave communications flew into the receivers of Chichi-barium, which was a unique communication from the organs of the Chichirams themselves. No, it's my fault. I should atone for the lives of millions of people, as well as the lives of intelligent beings of other civilizations in the universe. Oh Mother God, let me drift in the universe and endure this infinite pain and loneliness until my body decays and my will dies. Chichi-barium was preparing to give up his life completely and commit suicide to dissolve the brain organs in his body. Suddenly, a light flickered in the darkness of the universe. Chichi-barium slightly widened the sensor tube on his body. Was the Mother God answering his prayers? No. Is that space transition passage? A planet with an absolutely smooth surface and an absolutely reflective mirror leaps out of the space channel. On the surface of the battle star, an absolutely reflective mirror material reflects the brilliant Milky Way. Beautiful. Chi could see more clearly, but it was the scene of his own home planet that was reflected on the surface. Cold and merciless. The battleships were pitch black, and the battleships with the blood-red seal Qin characters depicted on their decks were densely packed around the battle star. Together, we crossed the transition channel. Appeared in space. Great Qin Empire. Chi almost lost his voice. How did they get here? Mr. Secretary General. Be careful, becoming nervous, chaotic electromagnetic waves rushing around the space too close. So that Chichi-barium was able to see the full picture of himself reflected in the mirror at a glance. He was probably less than a kilometer away from the huge battle star. Just then, a ray of light appeared from the gigantic battle star. In an instant, Chichi-barium was absorbed into it. For a moment, Chichi's heart grew endless despair. Finished. It's all over. The fleet of the Great Qin Empire descended on their home planet. Chi knew very well that this kind of sin was not something he could make up for once he died. Chi knew very well that the Great Qin Empire was an evil civilization. Take pleasure in destroying the planet. In order to win some life for his home planet, Chichi-barium could only frantically use the simulated vibration-generating organ to shout, Emperor! Emperor of Great Qin, I am Chichi-barium, the Supreme Secretary General of the Chizaram civilization. If you have the ability, you will come to see me. You evil fellows. Qin Sheng could see through the virtual screen that the small, pink, round body that was being held by two tactical humanoid maidens was only 60 centimeters in diameter, and the jellyfish-like creature was shouting. The ancestors of the Kikram were huge, but after they were promoted to space civilization, they abandoned their huge bodies and evolved their bodies to their current size. A tactical humanoid girl removes the molecular electromagnetic restraint belt. Directly bind all the jellyfish tentacles of Chichi-barium. Then there is a layer of space warp force field. After all the bindings, the tactical humanoid girl heard Qin Sheng's voice in her ears, bring him to see me, Chichi-barium, I didn't expect that as soon as I landed in this galaxy, I would be able to catch you. The bound Chichi-barium heard this voice. Through simulating the optical organs, he saw a humanoid creature sitting in a throne-like command chair at the front, shrouded in pitch-black armor. Two scarlet electronic eyes flashed on the armor of the face. You are the Emperor of Great Qin? Chi had no teeth, but if there was, his words must be the teeth of the 5 times the name of the rice. I am. Qin Sheng stood up, his negative hand behind him, and the armored boots covering the surface with light and strong interaction material moved. Stomping on the floor makes a heavy noise. Qin Sheng approached Chi and carefully examined his jellyfish body. Qin Sheng asked curiously, I know that the jellyfish on our Earth are basically genderless, so I am curious, the Chizarams, too, are genderless? Chi was stunned. He didn't understand why Qin Sheng asked this. It is true that the Chizarams do not distinguish between gender, male and female, male and female. It's all asexual. Through self-unisexual reproduction. Forget it, whether it's asexual or not, if you're caught by me, then you can only be feminine. What do you mean? Qi didn't understand this sentence either. The next moment, however, he understood. He suddenly felt that a mysterious force was attacking the thought mark in his mind. Qi's pink jellyfish body trembled violently. Resist this force. No. 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 Can't fall. The evil great Qin Emperor. Qi resisted desperately. However, all resistance is powerless. In an instant, the steel seal in Qi's mind was completely cleared. His body trembled violently. Barium knows. It's all over. Completely degenerated into the evil great Qin Empire. Iron heart assimilation, complete. You have regained a new race, Mother's Iro. Where? Episode 110, no matter what, it will last at least 2 hours, subscription required. The light of iron heart assimilation flashed by. The body of the barium jellyfish disintegrated, turning into a vast expanse of light began to recombine along with the disappearance of the light, the next moment. A young girl with skin over snow, dressed in a lotus skirt, suspended in the air, waving more than 10 pink and slender jellyfish tentacles behind her, appeared in front of Qin Sheng. The Emperor. Kiki Bell opened her silver eyes and struck her long silver hair. The pale jade tiptoe lightly touched the ground. Looks fairy. But at this moment, only Qin Sheng was in Kiki Bell's eyes. Jellyfish, humanoid maiden, Kiki Bell. Race, silicon-based creature / tactical humanoid. Body length, 175 cm. Occupation, Archon of Civilization. Passive skills, strong intelligence and government awareness, able to handle all government affairs perfectly and quickly, and give the best solution. Only one person can handle all government affairs in a huge country spanning thousands of light years. It was good. Qin Sheng nodded with satisfaction. The potential of the Chizorum civilization is very high. Other civilizations take tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years to ascend to the 4th level civilization. The Tsitsilam civilization has only been used for thousands of years. It is also the 4th level peak 563 civilization. To tell the truth, Qin Sheng had long seen the potential of the Kikram civilization. How could such a race with great potential not be taken under the Masha? Not to mention the Chinchiram civilization. Even if it was the Chaos Demons, Qin Sheng wanted to collect them on a large scale. After all, at this moment, Qin Sheng already had a machine ring demon maiden under him, and it was not too much to have a few 100 million more. And here, Qin Sheng had just assimilated Kiki Bell into a silicon-based girl. In space, the thousands of Kikram civilization warships that were moored were all like crazy, frantically rushing towards the Emperor Battlestar. However, how could this mere thousands of search battleships be under the Emperor's opponents under a round of Laplace heavy fast sunlight? Thousands of exploding flashing flames appeared in space. In just one round of attack, thousands of Tsiram civilization warships were destroyed. All units immediately returned to the home planet. All units, Libao carved back to the mother star. On the planet Chizorum, the planet's deputy defense chief, a creature that looks very similar to Qi Barium, but whose body is indeed blue, emits a wide-area broadcast to the entire galaxy. This Narcissus galaxy is home to the home star of the Chizorum civilization. It has been managed by the Chizorum people. In order to prevent enemies from landing directly near stars in the galaxy through the jump engine, the Chizorum carried out enormous works. The only star in the galaxy was first made into a Dyson sphere. Install a space warp force field. Without isolating the gravitational pull of the planet, the cosmic string transition channel of the star is isolated with the help of the Dyson sphere. Then, the Chintrums built a man-made, massive gravitational warp point outside the planetary system. The Chintrums did not create a planet of the same mass as a star. Instead, it pulled a star directly. A star from a nearby galaxy 7 light-years away was modified to be covered with a propulsion engine made of strongly interacting materials. There is no need for energy supply reactors, and the star itself is the source of energy. Then the thrust generated by the engine made of strongly interacting materials pushed that star 7 light-years away. Placed on the outside of the Narcissus galaxy. Thus, the exit of the space transition channel of the Narcissus galaxy was transferred to the star pushed from the outside. The Chintram civilization then used this outer star as its first point of defense. Build an outrageous defensive belt with strong firepower. The first layer of the defensive front, built by tens of millions of large defensive space stations, each defensive space station deployed a high-powered tachyon sphere, microscopic particles, atomic fragmentation cannon. Weight for hundreds of weapons. Because it is a large defensive space station, the energy is sufficient, and the first layer of the defensive belt can cover a radius of 100 billion kilometers. The further in, the more defensive fronts there are. There is also a giant space city, which is used to garrison the fleet of guards. There were 12 defensive fronts inside and out, and the number of women in the building exceeded 2.4 million. Moreover, these 12 lines of defense have pulled up the space interference belt. No battleship can pass through here with faster-than-light engines. It can be seen that the parent planet, which is surrounded by many defensive fronts, the planet Chiziram, should be absolutely safe. After all, even if the enemy moves, he will only move to the outer stars and want to attack the galaxy, and he will have to break through the 12 lines of defense. Even if the fleet of the Great Qin Empire wanted to attack from the periphery, it would have to pay a painful price for the 12 consecutive defensive fronts. But here's what puzzles Planet Defense Deputy Commander Chi-Chi. Why? How did the fleet of the Great Qin Empire bypass the 12 outer defensive fronts and appear directly in an area less than 10 million kilometers away from the home planet? Chi-Chi's strong intelligent thinking turns rapidly. Soon, he figured out a result. That is, using a higher-level space transition device that does not require stars at all, directly perform space transitions. Enter the interior of the Narcissus galaxy. However, such a space transition engine, only civilizations above the 5th level can have GABA? The Great Qin Empire. Chi-Chi did not dare to continue thinking about it. Now, all you can rely on is the defense line of the planet itself. Chi-Chi thought deeply. Of the 12 outer lines of defense, the stationers summoned 2.4 million waste warships. However, because the outer defense line pulls up the space interference belt, no battleship can travel faster than the speed of light. There is no distinction between enemy and enemy. As a result, fleets in the outer defenses who want to rush to the home planet must use sublight speeds to support. Even the nearest support fleet within the galaxy within the space jamming zone. It is also necessary to sail at sublight speeds, flying over the distance of 2 billion kilometers of space interference belts. At the very least, it takes 2 hours. 2 hours should be enough to support until the first wave of support arrives. Chi-Chi has been guarding the home planet and does not know much about the fiasco of the coalition forces. But according to him, quickly calculated the firepower of the parent star's peripheral defenses. Unless it is a 5th-level civilization, no matter what, 2 hours of time can always last. My brother, sister, was captured by them, and according to my brother's character, he must have been martyred now. The Chiziram people are asexual. Unlike the saying that there are brothers and sisters on Earth, their language is translated, and only the elder brother and the younger brother are said. Brother Chi-Chi, as your younger brother, I will avenge you. Chi-Chi thought bitterly.